Sir, a just and civilized society. And sir, you are Christopher Lee Ryan Carter.
Yes, sir.
Are you satisfied with Mr. Daly and the advice that he's given?
Yes, sir.
Do you wish to explain or to challenge the accuracy or the relevancy of any of the information that is in your pre-sentence report?
No, sir.
The probation officer has calculated the minimum sentencing guidelines in this case to be from 365 to 600 months or life. Do you agree with that computation of guidelines?
Yes, sir.
Before the court passes sentence, Mr. Daly, is there anything you want to say on behalf of Mr. Carter?
Mr. Carter became involved in these incidences. I know there's speculation that he was the influence of amphetamines at the time because of his behavior. But personally, I believe that this was going to occur no matter what happened. Mr. Carden had created a situation where he had nothing left in his life except trying to protect his children. I'm not suggesting that he had done a good job of raising his children, and I'm not suggesting that he'd been the kind of father that he now knows that he wants to be, and in the future would like to have the opportunity to be a better father, grandfather, and to enjoy his family if he ever has that opportunity. But when this started out, Mr. Carden already came in with a very strong hatred and dislike for individuals that were abusing children. There's a young woman sitting in this courtroom today that when she was 11 years old and was being abused, Mr. Carden went over to her house and stayed with her and slept on the couch to stop that abuse from happening. So he has a long history of finding it very distasteful. Children are abused like that. And more importantly, in this case, the guidelines are correct as it relates to what the statute says they should be. But the other side of this, the bottom end of the guidelines, are still significant, and we would ask the court to ultimately consider a deviation and go by for a sentence below the guidelines. And there's good reasons for doing that, Your Honor. Mr. Carden, in the 2 years that he has been incarcerated in the jail, has testified numerous times in this courtroom, I believe in Judge Anselm's courtroom, and provided valuable information on capital crimes. There are other capital crimes that Mr. Carden is still going to continue to cooperate with, although I understand when I say this, that after today, there's no way that anybody can force Mr. Carden to come back here, but he will. He will continue to complete what he has started at the jail. The downside of that is that it now appears as if he has been targeted by organized gangs that he has testified against in this court, and that in prison they are looking to have him killed. And again, that's nothing the court can do about that. There's nothing that anybody can do about that. But I would ask that the court reflect upon the positive things that Mr. Carden has done since he has been locked up. And in addition to that, one of the reasons that we're here for a sentencing right now is because my personal opinion is the only person, the only institution that has a vested interest right now in having Mr. Carden sentenced at this time is the Lenawee County Jail. They want him out of there. He's been there 2 years. Other individuals have been there longer, and he's been involved in some conflict at the jails. But Mr. Carden has told me that he believes that those facts about his misconduct have been misrepresented to allow the sentencing to go forward now. Mr. Carden knows what he did, and he accepts responsibility for it. And I'm not sure that if faced with the same circumstances today, that he wouldn't engage in that same type of behavior today as it relates to his children and his children being assaulted. Mr. Carden has had a difficult time in life for multiple reasons, but it doesn't change the fact that he does have a heart. His heart is in the right place, and he does not want to see innocent people injured or harmed. You take a look at Mr. Carden's record, and you're going to see he's never been involved in that kind of behavior. What he did should not have been done. Mr. Carden knows that it shouldn't have been done. But at the time he did this, Mr. Carden felt that he had no other way to protect his children. As it is, the mother is in jail for approximately 12 years. While Mr. Carden is looking at a sentence substantially longer than that. And but for the conduct of the mother of these children, Mr. Carden would not have been in a situation to act as he did. And we would ask the court to consider all of these things in passing the sentence. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Carden, is there anything you'd like to say on your own behalf?
Yes, sir. By all the trauma and everything my children been through, they persevered and they're thriving right now. And I can't ask for nothing more to that. When I found out, when the counselor called me into the office, told me that my daughter been molested, so many emotions run through me. Mostly guilt. No, guilty that I wasn't going to protect my daughter. I'm in prison and she get violated. Law says that I had ample enough time to think about my actions. And that's true. I did. I thought about it every day. I thought about and it fester and brew and boil over. You know, he said I have enough time to make a conscious decision. But there is a flip side to that coin. I want anybody and everybody involved with hurting my daughter to pay. But I didn't take into consideration the innocent people that I would be hurting with my actions. And I'm sorry for that. I failed as being a father. Hopefully, release me in enough time where I can maybe be a grandfather. Thank you.
Ms. Wise, do the people wish to?
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, I do have Vicki Brayman here. She's the daughter of Robert Brayman. She would like to address the board at this time.
Hi. I'm not here to condemn you, to tell you're a terrible person. I know what you did was a mistake, but you did kill my dad, and you shot him in the back of the head in a brutal, brutal manner, and you took his wallet and stole his car afterwards. I don't know if you understand that that's wrong. Yeah, he was a bad person. I didn't get along with him actually because he was missing for 15 years of my life, of my adolescence. So I feel bad for your kids because they're going to do the same thing I did, miss out on their dad for most of their adolescence. And it didn't turn out well for me. I have psychological issues. I have major issues with that. And then you went and trumped it and killed him, murdered him. I had to pay for a funeral. I totaled my car a week after because I ran through a red light because I was out of my mind. Like, one more thing that happened to me. No, my dad didn't molest me. No, he did not. Now, he went to prison for molesting somebody. That's what he was charged with. He did his time. He didn't go and he didn't testify against a bunch of other people to get out of his time. He did his time, and then you went and killed him before I could even make amends with him. And I don't think you recognize what you did because you think that the two people you killed don't matter. But they do matter. You can't just go around killing people because you think they did some harm to others. And I'm just really gonna pray for you a lot and your kids. You have a lot of kids. I have 3. You have more than me. But they're going to go through the exact same thing I did because their dad's in prison because you made poor choices. And that's just all I would like to say. Thank you.
Your Honor, Mr. Hartung and I have both been involved. Mr. Carden, Jamie Carden, the Carden children for years. And I struggle so much with this case. I struggle so much with Chris and what he did and why we're here today. I've never seen a more planned out, premeditated killing. I struggle with this case, Your Honor, and I just asked Mr. Hartung to finish addressing the court on this issue.
Tough situations tell us a lot about people and how they react. Mr. Carden has a daughter who's so brave. And he stood up in court, testified against the man who had harmed her. And emerged from it, and she's a hero. And there's a lot of ways to talk about this. And I wonder if one of the things we need to talk about at some point in time, maybe not today, is why were these 2 men out on bond? CSC first offenses against young children. Perhaps today is not the day to discuss that, but I know Ms. Borders was so frustrated during that process of being unable to keep those individuals in jail and bonds being set for them either at a PR level or at a level that was easily made when they had done so much wrong to these young people. And the reaction of this defendant cannot be justified. It can be understood perhaps, and maybe even explained, but it cannot be justified. We cannot, in our court system, in our criminal system that we have here, allow such things to occur. Ms. Weiss is correct. This is as premeditated a case of murder as we'll probably ever see. Good Lord, he filmed it. I need Mr. Carden to understand, perhaps he never will, that his daughter testified in this courtroom and put Ernie Black away. And this judge sentenced Ernie Black to life in prison without a chance for parole. He will never get out of prison, ever, because of what your daughter testified to and what Ms. Borders and others in our office did. The same thing would have happened to the other individual because she is a hero. She is a survivor. Mr. Brayman was not involved in that. He was a bystander in this situation. This court has faced a lot of different challenges and has a challenge here today. The guidelines are harsh and the guidelines are what they are. The PRV levels in this case are so high that it doesn't really matter. Mr. Carden needs to know that I went to Mr. Jones last week and told him that one of the OV numbers was incorrect and 50 points was taken off the score. We have to do that. We're obligated to do that. But it doesn't matter because your PRVs are so high. It's because of all your previous criminal history. It didn't change the ultimate guidelines whatsoever. Now, we wanted Mr. Carden to testify in as many cases as he wanted to testify in, because as Mr. Jones points out, he is articulate. The court saw it today. He is articulate. He's intelligent. He speaks well, and he's brutally honest. Brutally. So much so that at the end of a preliminary examination that Mr. Carden testified in district court, and a very experienced defense attorney, not from this county, but a very prominent, experienced defense attorney, when he got done questioning Mr. Carden, leaned over to Ms. Weiss and myself and said to us, that man is the scariest mother effer I have ever cross-examined. He has not made good choices in his life. We know that. What do we do with him today? Well, he hasn't completed the task we wanted him to do, but he absolutely has assisted in cases. He assisted greatly in the case against his wife. He testified in that case. He assisted greatly in the Mauer murder case. That case wound up with him going to prison for 20 plus years. It was crucial what he did in that case. It wasn't as crucial in his wife's case because he has his daughter, the hero, who also testified in that case and did an outstanding job. But this court is faced with not only harsh guidelines, the concept of trying to fashion a sentence where in theory that someone could maybe get out of prison in the future, and also people versus Posey case, which relatively recently tells us that not only does the court have to consider the guidelines, the court has to consider within the guidelines themselves where the sentence is going to be proportional. We're almost back to the days of Milborn. So how do you measure the assistance? What do you do? I've been doing this for an awful long time. I have gone through this in many different situations with judges in the past, including Judge Glazer, Judge Timms, Judge Pickard, Judge Gaselka, and it's always difficult. How do you measure the assistance someone get based on and compare it with what the damage that they did? We are not opposed to him coming back and testifying again in cases. I know the Cecil case is set for trial in July. I know there's another really important case that he does have information on, and he's hesitant to make a full on-the-record statement because the people that he would be testifying in that case are even scarier than the people he's testified about before. And if this man over here to my left is fear of reprisal against him or his family, we are talking about some very serious and dangerous individuals. I don't think, unlike Mr. Daly, I don't think he has got to the point where a downward departure from the guidelines is appropriate. Halfway, absolutely. Bottom quarter, probably. But I don't think he's completed the job that he set out to do. He indicated to us that he's going to do these things. And if he does these things, we will never oppose this court or any other court having all the proper information in front of them to sentence somebody. If that requires a resentencing at some point in the future, then that's what we have to do. But we want to make sure that this man is punished for the crimes that he did and receives some consideration for the acts that he has done to follow up. Some of these things that he has done, the cases would have been much more difficult to make. And I'm not going through each and every one of them on the record here today. It wouldn't be fair to Mr. Carden, but he's done valuable service to law enforcement. He's done valuable service to the prosecutor's office and the judicial system here in Illinois County. He's tried to make amends. He can't make amends for what he did fully. He's doing what he can. He did say one thing to me that I want to put on the record, because Ms. Weiss and I have gone to bat for him before. And I told him, you know, you have to stop messing up, screwing up at the jail, or you're going to get sent to prison before it's time for you to get sent to prison. And he said to me, he said, I'll do the best I can. And he said, I have been a terrible father to my children. Horrible. All I want is an opportunity someday to be a better grandfather.
In determining the appropriate sentence in this case, the court's considered the seriousness of your offenses, your history, the principle of proportionality, statutory penalty, cost of confinement report, recommendation of the probation department, as well as what's been said on the record here today. The criteria and reasons for the sentence are the nature and gravity of the offense, the discipline appropriate to its commission, terms against repetition by you and by others, vindication for the law, and the protection of society. I have reviewed the pre-sentence investigation report as well as the victim impact statements that were submitted. Mr. Hartung was right. The prior record variables in this case are high. They were 125 on the offense variables and 245 on prior offense variables. Both of those scores are significantly above where the guidelines stop adding additional levels. They essentially stop scoring offense variables at 100 points. Mr. Cardin's were 245, about 150% higher than where they stopped scoring at the upper limit. Mr. Cardin's 37 years old. He has 4 prior felonies and 16 prior misdemeanors. Convicted in this case of unlawfully driving away an automobile and 2 counts of second-degree murder. Mr. Cardin was on parole in the state of Ohio at the time those offenses occurred. Mr. Cardin murdered 2 men, Samuel Compton and Robert Brayman. During his confession, he expressed pride in those actions, said that you recorded it and put it on Facebook Live, and you referred to yourself as a hero. Some may agree with that notion, that the actions were justified or that what he did was heroic given the circumstances of the case. But that, in my estimation, is a misguided belief. What happened was not heroic. As you acknowledge today, your own actions contributed to tragedies that befell your children. So to excuse or condone what Mr. Cardin has done would be essentially to embrace the vigilante nature of society. That when anyone felt appropriately aggrieved or wronged, they could decide when and where and what the punishment should be. That amounts to a rejection of civilized society. Civilized society only works if we give up our right to do violence to other people, because otherwise we constantly live in fear of others doing violence to us. We're not living in a civilized society. We're living in a state of nature where we can be harmed by anyone, anywhere, at any time. And that would be nasty, brutish, and short, in the words of Thomas Hobbes. So while I can empathize with, or try to empathize, I can never put myself in your shoes and truly understand that, I'm sure. Circumstances that you were in and how horrible it must have been for you to find out what had happened to your children. We as a society cannot tolerate what you chose to do in response. That is what the rule of law in a civilized society provides for and requires. Mr. Hartung made a comment about the difficulty of weighing the value of the assistance that Mr. Cardin's testimony in other cases has provided against the damage that his crimes have caused. And he is correct. It is incredibly difficult to do, particularly in a case such as this, where the damage essentially is infinite. 2 men are dead. They lost their lives under very violent circumstances. How does one measure that? And I do believe that the assistance you've provided should count for something. Again, we're counting against a very high price that you have to pay. High end of the guidelines in this case are 600 months, and the recommended sentence in the pre-sentence investigation is 600 to 900 months. I think that when I try to look at the that analysis of weighing the two against each other, and also considering what I had said earlier, that a just and civilized society cannot tolerate what had happened in this case, I believe that the appropriate sentence in this case, and it will be the sentence of the court, that with respect to count 9, homicide, murder in the second degree, that Mr. Cardin, you served 500 months to 900 months with the Michigan Department of Corrections. And the same with respect to the count 10, second degree murder charge. With respect to the unlawful driving away charge of the sentence of the court, that he served 24 to 60 months with the Michigan Department of Corrections. You do have credit at this point for 1,211 days. You must pay a $130 crime victims' rights fee, $204 state cost, $60 DNA fee, and $450 attorney fee. Those sentences will run concurrent to each other. And there is restitution in the amount of $2,111 payable to the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services for funeral expenses.
So a just civilized society to you is having sex offenders running around?
No, sir. A just
record. My father's been a sex offender since 1990.
He didn't start it.
Sir, a just and civilized society.
We need to get to it.
Chris, chill out. Chill out. Chris, chill. Listen, chill. Hey, Chris, listen to me. Stop. Hey, Chris, chill. Listen, chill. Let me talk to him. He's not gonna do nothing. Let me talk to him. Chris, chill. Listen. Chris, yes, we know. Listen.
That was a monster.
Chris. Chris.
Thank you.
Hey, I love you. Hey, I love you.
All right, everyone.
No matter how long it is.
No, I love you. You are the most
Kids, when you do that to somebody that
I'm the victim and that man saved me a long time ago. Long time ago.
child molester
Stop.
deserve to fucking die. They deserve to fucking die.
You wanna fucking do this? Fucking shit, you kids. Come on, bud. Come on. Hi. Fuck you, dude.
This court's fucking bullshit. Fuck this. You that deserve it. Come on. Absolutely. Yeah, you know.
Back to the jail. We need to get
That's why you're not saying.
I need to back here and finish.
We all die. We all die.
I do have Mr. Hardin's notice of right to appellate review forms. I will give these to the bailiff to give to Mr. Hardin.
You can sign it.
We need to get some people up here to take care of what's going on in the hallway. We need those people out.
We're going to have one assistant on the third floor.
It tells it feel very safe here.
You stay right where you are. Okay?
We need more people here.
Wow.
No.
I mean, I'm not really afraid. I don't know why anyone is making it worse. Right, but I just don't, I wouldn't say can I cause the sentence to be any harsher by stupid? But they're blaming it on me for some reason.
It's true. I know, since you've been waiting, I know.
All rise. This recorded in session. Your Honorable Michael.
We are back on the record. Mr. Hardin, you do have the ability to request an appeal of your sentence. Bailiff's going to hand to you 3 copies of a notice of right to appellate review and request for appointment of attorney form. You need to sign 1 copy of that form that indicates you received your forms. If you want to appeal your sentence, you need to fill out the other 2 copies of the form and mail those to the address listed in the form within 42 days.
Nothing further.
Record to reflect, I do have a signed copy of the form from Mr. Hardin placing that in the file. There's nothing further.